In the dry town of Ouahigouya, not far from Burkina Faso's northern border, where dust lingered like a second skin and the horizon rarely moved, a boy named Khalil wore a bell around his neck. It wasn't a real bell, just a rusted soda cap flattened and pierced with a hole, tied to a string that dangled from his shirt collar. Whenever he walked, it clinked faintly, a signal of his presence, a sound the goats recognized. He was 12 years old, thin as wire, with feet tougher than leather, and eyes sharp enough to catch a lizard's breath. He had no father. His mother sold roasted maize in the market square. His brother Yahya had joined the army 2 years ago and never came back. The town didn't talk about boys like Yahya anymore. Not since the local garrison changed hands. First rebels, then foreign mercenaries, then someone wearing the insignia of the government, but speaking with a foreign accent. Whoever they were, they didn't like questions. Khalil had one rule: never walk too close to the barracks. But that morning, he heard shouting from the alley behind the butcher's shop. It wasn't market noise. It was urgent, scared. Khalil ducked low and crept toward the sound, past crates of mango skins and buzzing flies. A girl, maybe 15, was pinned against the wall. A soldier held her wrist, yelling in a dialect Khalil didn't understand. Another soldier rummaged through her bag. "Where's the flyer?" one growled. "You think this is a game?" She spat at him. "You're not Burkina Faso. You're thieves." The soldier slapped her hard. She dropped to her knees. Khalil's fists clenched. He didn't even know her name. She had probably passed him in the market 100 times. But now she was bleeding, and nobody moved. So Khalil did. He picked up a rock and threw it as hard as he could. It hit the soldier in the temple. The man spun and raged. "Who?" Khalil didn't wait to be seen. He ran, fast, like he was chasing the wind, or being chased by it. He darted through stalls, under carts, between donkeys. The bell around his neck clinked wildly, like a war cry. He didn't stop until he reached his mother's hut.
"Inside,"
she hissed, pushing him behind a sack of millet. "What did you do, child?" He couldn't speak. He just shook. That night, the town was quieter than usual. Not calm, quiet like a held breath. The next morning, the girl was gone. Her name, Khalil would later learn, was Mariama. She had been handing out flyers with a black star and red writing, underground messages, warnings, dreams. Khalil kept the string with the soda cap, but now he tied it tighter. In the capital, President Ibrahim Traore read reports with growing unease. Another cell intercepted in the north, his intelligence chief reported. But this one was different. They weren't armed. Traore frowned. "Civilians?" "Yes, sir. Mostly teenagers. They call themselves les éveilleurs, the awakeners." He rubbed his temple. The name echoed like prophecy. "Do we know who's funding them?" "No one. They don't use money. They use stories, word of mouth, flyers. They move like ghosts. And they believe in what?" The chief hesitated. "They believe in you, or the idea of you." That caught Traore off guard. "They think you don't know what's happening in the provinces. That if you did, you'd stop it." Traore leaned back in his chair. "I need someone up there," he said. "Quiet, observant, someone the mercenaries won't suspect." The chief nodded. "We have a school inspector, embedded in Ouahigouya. He has a shortwave radio." "Could," Traore said. "Tell him to listen for a sound, a signal." "What kind of signal?" Traore's eyes narrowed. "A bell." 2 nights after the girl disappeared, Khalil was awakened by a tapping on the roof. Not the usual sound of sand or bugs. This was sharp, deliberate. He crawled outside. Moonlight washed the clay rooftops in silver. A man stood on the edge of the alley, partially hidden in the shadow of the wall. He didn't move when Khalil approached. "You're the one with the bell," the man said. Khalil instinctively reached for the string on his shirt. "Don't worry, I'm not with them," the man said quickly. "I'm a friend of your brother." Khalil froze. "Yahya?" The man nodded. "He saved my life in Jebbo. My name is Maega." Khalil stepped closer. He didn't trust the man, but he didn't back away either. "Why are you here?" Maega glanced around. "Because people like you, people who act without orders, are the reason this country still breathes. I'm here to listen. Listen to what? Maega reached into his bag and pulled out an old, cracked radio, military grade, with dials and a stubby antenna. The president's ears are open. He just doesn't know what to hear yet. He placed the radio in Khalil's hands. When the time is right, Maega whispered, "Press this red button. Speak only truth. Someone will hear it." Then he vanished into the night. The next morning, the town woke to find a symbol painted on the wall beside the market well. A black star. No words, no signature. Just a bold star, large and defiant, smeared in ash and oil. The soldiers were furious. They interrogated half the vendors, shut down the maize stalls, and beat 3 teenagers for laughing too loudly. But they never found the painter. Khalil, of course, had seen it go up. Just before dawn, Mariama had returned. She moved like a ghost. Her clothes were torn, one eye swollen, but her hands were steady as she dipped her fingers into a tin of burnt oil and smeared the star against the wall. "You're supposed to be gone," Khalil had whispered. "I was supposed to be broken," she replied. She never looked back at him, but she gave him a name. "Les Eviers," she said. "That's what we are. Not soldiers, not rebels, just people who refuse to sleep through injustice." And then she was gone again. Khalil watched the wall long after sunrise. Later that day, the soldiers repainted it, but they couldn't remove the idea. President Ibrahim Traore was having a sleepless night. The file on his desk was thin, but it carried more weight than 1,000 troop reports. It was marked Oe Hague, active signal detected. Beside it was a scratched audio file. He pressed play again. A young boy's voice, quiet but clear, spoke through static. They took her. They said it was for safety, but they beat her because she wouldn't stop speaking. The market is scared, but we remember the stories. The star isn't just a shape. It's a warning and a promise. If you hear this, don't let them erase us. Traore leaned forward, elbows on his knees. For a long time, he didn't speak. Then he said, "We remember." That means there's more than one. Keita, his top intelligence advisor, nodded. "We believe the symbol is spreading. There are whispers in Kaya, markings in Dori, flyers in Tenkodogo. And this isn't a coordinated rebel group. No, sir. That's what's terrifying. It's not funded. It's not armed. It's viral, organic. Kids, market women, even school teachers. They're quoting your old speeches." "My speeches? The ones before you were president, before power softened your fire." Traore chuckled bitterly. "Maybe the fire just got buried." Keita leaned in. "Sir, I don't want to overstep, but this might be the first thing since you took office. That wasn't a problem. It might be the solution." He turned toward her. "You want me to endorse an underground movement. I want you to listen to it. Let it breathe. See what it becomes." Traore stood, walked to the balcony, and looked out over the Capitol. A star, a bell, a boy. Something was waking up. The teacher's name was Madame Samira. She taught history in the only school in Owade US still open after dark. The others had shut down long ago, some after attacks, others from fear. But she kept teaching, sometimes with 1 student, sometimes with 10. She used to believe in books. Now she believed in voices. That evening her classroom was full. Not just students, but mothers, cousins, young men returning from the fields with tired eyes and raw calluses. There were no desks left, just woven mats and candles flickering against the wind. A chalkboard leaned against the wall, cracked from years of heat. Written in large block letters were 4 words: "We are not alone." Kala sat in the front row. It was Mariama who had brought him there. She sat beside the chalkboard, her hands bandaged, her face healing. There was something fierce about her now, something unbreakable. "This is not a rebellion," she said calmly. "It's a reminder," Madame Samira added. "They want us to believe that we're isolated, but every time someone paints a star, or passes a flyer, or refuses to stay quiet, a thread connects us." Someone in the back raised a hand. "But they'll come for us." "They already are," Mariama said, "whether we whisper or scream, so we might as well be loud." Kala felt it again, that spark in his chest. He reached into his shirt and let the soda cap bell fall against his chest with a soft clink. Someone across the room heard it and smiled. The soldiers heard too. That night, an informant tipped off the local commander. "The school is teaching rebellion. They arrived after midnight. 3 trucks, headlights off. Kala saw them first. From the rooftop where he slept. He didn't think. He ran barefoot through back alleys, banging on shutters, whispering into cracks in walls, "Hide the books, take the children." But when he reached the school, he saw something unexpected. Madame Samira was waiting for them at the gate. She stood in her long indigo dress, arms crossed, surrounded by 10 students, all lined up in silence. A soldier stepped forward. "This is illegal gathering. This is a history class," she replied. "After curfew, we're studying the Constitution." He moved to grab her, but a boy, no older than Khalil, stepped forward and spoke. "You'll be in the next chapter." The soldiers hesitated. The line of students didn't move. And then from behind the walls, villagers appeared. One by one, no weapons, just presence. Old men with walking sticks, women with baskets still filled with maize, teenagers with scraped knees. The soldier looked around and realized they were outnumbered. "This isn't over," he muttered, backing away. "No," Madame Samira said. "It's just beginning." In the capital, President Ibrahim Traore watched a grainy video from a hidden body camera worn by one of the village soldiers. It showed the entire encounter. The line of students, the villagers, the refusal to kneel. He replayed the boy's words. "You'll be in the next chapter." Kieta stood behind him. "They're not fighting for power," she said. "They're fighting for dignity." He sat in silence. "I want to speak to the boy," he said. "We don't have his name." "The one with the bell," Traore said. "He's the key." Kieta raised an eyebrow. "You want to extract him?"
"I want to learn from him."
She paused. "That's not how most presidents react to threats." Traore looked up. "That's because most presidents forgot they were citizens first." Back in Ouahigouya, Kali returned home to find a new message etched in the dirt behind his hut. 3 lines. 1 circle, a star in the middle. The symbol was spreading. And this time, it wasn't painted by Mariama. Someone else had taken up the ink. Kali looked up at the night sky. A real star twinkled above, almost in sync with the one on the wall. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel small. He felt heard. The bell was gone. Khalil noticed it the moment he woke. The string was still around his neck, but the soda cap that clinked like a heartbeat was missing. He tore apart the straw mat, crawled under the bed, checked the wash basin. Nothing. It wasn't just a trinket, it was his signal, his voice, his shield. "Mariama must have taken it," he muttered. But even as he said it, he didn't believe it. She hadn't been seen in 2 days. Neither had Madame Samira. At the edge of town, just before the fields turned to scrub, there was a small structure made of concrete and rusted metal. No one had gone near it for weeks. Locals whispered that it wasn't a government post. It was something else. People who went in didn't come out. It had no name, no flag, just shadows. Khalil stood across the road from it now, hidden behind a mound of gravel. That's where they were. He was sure of it. A truck had come through last night. No markings, covered windows. It left just before sunrise, empty. He had to act. In the capital, President Traore met with Kieta in the presidential library, a quiet, windowless room filled with dust and forgotten books. 3 more stars were painted last night, she reported. 1 in 10 Kodo, 1 in Kaya, and 1 here. "Here?" he asked. She nodded. "In the parking garage beneath the Ministry of Defense. Chalk, barely visible, but it's spreading." He didn't smile. "Not anymore." "What about the boy?" "Still no name. But we intercepted a second signal last night. Same frequency." She pressed play. "They took the teacher. The girl too. They say they're just asking questions. But no one returns from that place. We don't have guns, just memories. But memories can burn hotter than bullets. Please, do not forget us." Kieta paused. "He's asking for help." Traore stood slowly. "Then maybe it's time I stop listening from behind a desk." That night, Khalil returned to the hidden room beneath the old mosque, where the others sometimes gathered. Only 3 people were there. A boy with a twisted ankle, a girl with her baby brother asleep on her back, and an old man with cataracts in both eyes. They looked up when Khalil entered. "They're gone," he said. "We need to bring them back." The boy scoffed. "With what? Prayers? Pebbles? With numbers," Khalil replied. "We're not alone anymore." He pulled out the radio Mayiga had given him. flipped open the battery pack, and rewired it the way Yaya once taught him. It sparked. Then he spoke. This is Owa Higuya. The bell is broken. The stars are fading. But the people are still here. If you can hear us, help us. He didn't expect a reply, but he got one. Khalil, stay where you are. Help is coming. His breath caught. Who is this? He whispered. My name is Ibrahim, and I'm listening. At dawn, 2 unmarked military vehicles arrived at the edge of Owa Higuya. No flags, no uniforms, just civilians with quiet eyes and calloused hands. Mayiga was among them. He met Khalil by the well. You sent the signal, he said. Khalil nodded. We're going in tonight, Mayiga continued. But we need someone who knows the ground. Someone small. Khalil didn't hesitate. I'll lead. Mayiga shook his head. You're just a kid. I'm the only one who fits through the drainage tunnel. Silence. Then Mayiga smiled. Just barely. You're your brother's shadow. No, Khalil said. I'm his echo. That night, under a moonless sky, the people of Owa Higuya began to move. They didn't have weapons, but they had numbers and stars painted on their hands. The drainage tunnel behind the holding compound was barely wide enough for a goat, but Khalil had memorized it. Its twists, its stench, the way the moonlight glinted off the trickle of foul water. He'd crawled through it once on a dare. Now he was doing it to save lives. Mayiga knelt beside him at the entrance. Are you sure? He whispered. Khalil nodded. If I get stuck, pull me by the legs. Comforting, Mayiga muttered. But his eyes were proud. Khalil slipped in, stomach pressed to the wet earth, the radio tied to his back with old cloth. Darkness swallowed him whole, but he didn't stop. Not once. 10 meters in, the tunnel narrowed. He exhaled to flatten his chest and pushed forward. Rats skittered past his ears. He kept moving. Then a sliver of light, faint, artificial. He reached the grate. A soft murmur echoed through the bars. Voices. He looked down. Mariama and Madame Samira were in a small room, faces bruised, but eyes bright. 2 guards paced outside, bored, half asleep. Khalil tapped the radio once, a click in response. Mayiga's signal. Khalil pulled out a short metal rod he'd taken from a tire rim and began loosening the rusted screws on the grate. 1, 2, 3. The last one gave way with a soft crack. He slid the grate silently to the side and dropped into the cell like a shadow. Mariama gasped. Khalil? She. We're getting out. Samira's eyes filled with tears. You shouldn't be here. I should have come sooner, he replied. He gave them the signal. 3 taps on the floor. Mayiga and the others were ready. Outside the compound, Mayiga and 5 villagers crept through the brush with makeshift torches and slings. They wore no uniforms, carried no banners, but they moved with purpose. As Khalil led Mariama and Samira through the tunnel, a shout rang out from the eastern wall. Someone had been spotted. Mayiga cursed. Too soon. They charged anyway. The villagers flooded the compound, not with bullets, but with sound. Drums, whistles, horns fashioned from plastic jugs. The chaos overwhelmed the guards. Lights flickered, orders clashed, and in the middle of it all, a boy, a girl, and a teacher emerged from a drain pipe. Free. The next morning, the compound stood empty. Soldiers had fled in the night, scattering into the hills. They left behind files, uniforms, and shame. President Ibrahim Traore arrived hours later by unmarked helicopter. He walked through the ruins of the prison, with Mayiga and Kita beside him. They didn't speak. Then he saw the wall, painted in fresh red oil, still dripping, were 6 words. We are awake. We are staying. He turned to Khalil, who stood beside Mariama and Samira. You're the boy with the bell, Traore said. Khalil didn't answer. You saved them. No, Khalil said softly. We saved each other. Traore smiled. He reached into his jacket and pulled something out. A soda cap, flattened, cleaned, and polished. This fell off your string. Khalil's mouth opened in shock. I had my people retrieve it from your hut, Traore said. Something told me it mattered. Khalil took it, fingers trembling. It was more than metal. It was the sound of a nation waking up. That night, a convoy of buses arrived in Owa Higuya. Not military, mobile schools, medical units, clean water tanks. Traore stood beside Khalil as the town gathered. "This is just the beginning," the president said. "But you started it." Khalil looked around at the faces, smiling, weathered, proud. He didn't feel like a boy anymore. He felt like a bell that never stopped ringing. News of the uprising in Ouahigouya didn't stay quiet for long. Within 2 days, videos had spread through encrypted channels. Grainy clips of villagers marching with painted stars on their palms. A boy crawling through a tunnel. A teacher standing against rifles. A voice over static radio. "The bell is broken, but the people are still here." No mainstream news channel covered it. They didn't have to. The people did, from the textile mills of Bobo Dioulasso to the fishing docks in Banfora, from desert encampments in Goram Goram to schools in Kaya. Citizens began to paint stars on walls, on trees, on their skin. The black star wasn't a symbol of war. It was a declaration. President Ibrahim Traore stood before the Council of Ministers a week later. He was not the same man who had paced behind marble walls, surrounded by polished silence. He now wore dust on his boots and creases in his uniform, from sleeping in field tents. "The people have spoken," he said. Half the room shifted uncomfortably. One advisor cleared his throat. "With all due respect, sir, this star movement, it's uncontrollable. There are no leaders, no laws." Traore nodded. "That's why it's honest." Another minister leaned forward. "So what do you propose? Amnesty? Negotiation?" "I propose we listen." Gasps. "They're not rebels," he continued. "They're citizens acting like we failed them, which we did. So now we rise with them, or we fall alone." Silence followed. Then Keita stood. "I support the president." Others followed, one by one. A month later, the president returned to Ouahigouya, not with guards but with artists, doctors, and journalists. He held an open forum in the town square. Khalil sat in the front row. So did Mariama and Madame Samira. Traore spoke from a wooden stage, the bell hanging from his neck, not as a symbol of power, but of memory. "I am not here to lead you," he said. "I am here to serve you. See, you already know where you want to go. I'm just the one lucky enough to walk beside you." The crowd erupted, not in cheers, but in song. An old village hymn. Wordless, steady, rising like breath. Khalil joined in, his voice cracking but loud. In the following weeks, Burkina Faso changed. Not overnight, not easily, but truly. Village assemblies were given power to report directly to regional leaders. Community radios were legalized. A public education bill, crafted with input from teachers like Samira, was introduced. And perhaps most powerfully, a new civic holiday was declared, Awakening Day. It would be celebrated every year on the anniversary of the day the bell went silent, and the people spoke up. Khalil never asked for credit, but in Ouahigouya, children began wearing strings with soda caps, not to play, to remember. He kept his radio, and every once in a while, late at night, he would tune to the old frequency and whisper, "We're still here." And from somewhere far off through static and stars, a voice would sometimes whisper back, "We hear you."